Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 challenge run. In my last run, I tried to beat Fallout 4 as a sentry bot, and that was so much fun that I decided today we're going to keep with the robot theme as we find out if I can beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty as a Mr. Handy. Before we get into the run, let's lay down some ground rules. I must play the entire game as a Mr. Handy. I must play the entire game on the survival difficulty. I can't use any bugs or glitches on purpose to exploit the game. I will only be using visual mods with the exception of the Be a Machine Playable Robots mod, and I cannot use console commands for anything but fixing bugs. With the rules of the run laid out, let's take a look at the challenge itself. So I've done the Protectron, the Assaultron, and the Sentry Bot, but now it's time we shift away from Robco and take a look at the leading robot from General Atomics, the Mr. Handy. I think this one is going to be the most complicated from a control scheme layout, as I have no clue how the mod handles having 3 arms and multiple different attacks with each arm. Either way, I'm excited to take on this run, so let's get right into the action as I start the game in my pre-war bathroom and quickly use the console to turn myself into a Mr. Handy, but I can't move? That's weird, but I guess I can just figure it out once I'm out of the prologue of the game, so I decide to just run through the pre-war section as a human, and start off by setting my name and special stats with the Vault-Tec rep, which are a 3 in strength for melee damage and carry weight, 1 in perception because I didn't clean my eye lenses, 10 in endurance for general sturdiness, 6 in charisma for speech checks and perks, 6 in intelligence for increased experience gains, 1 in agility because I don't need it, and 1 in luck since it's useless for a robot. After that, the Vault-Tec sales rep asked for my ID, but I just can't seem to find my wallet? Where did I put it? Oh right, thanks to this video sponsor Exter, that's a problem of the past. Exter is known for inventing the world's first trackable wallet, and I have to say, it's incredible how much better this is than my old leather wallet. I went with their space grade aluminum smart wallet featuring this absolutely stunning Pacific blue finish, and having used it for a couple of weeks, I don't see myself going back to my old one ever, as this one is just so slim and has a real quality feel to it. All of that isn't even mentioning how this thing works great as a fidget device due to the smooth way the cards slide in and out of it. I also got this awesome tracker card, which is really sleek looking and can pair with Apple's Find My app to let you know exactly where your wallet is at any time. If you've been lugging around an old leather wallet, then you have to do yourself a favor and head over to their site while using my code WILLOW to get an additional discount on top of any sales they have running. If you're watching this when it releases, that could stack up to as much as 35% off, so make sure to take advantage while you still can. After giving the Vault-Tec rep my ID, I head over to my son's room and quickly spin the mobile on his crib before the TV tells me that the world is ending, which prompts me to sprint over to the vault platform and barely escape nuclear hellfire by using the world's slowest elevator. I then get frozen for a couple hundred years, only taking a small break from the deep sleep to watch my wife die and child get stolen, before waking up and herding all of the rat roaches into various rooms before grabbing the Pip-Boy and opening the vault door so I can ride this elevator up and make my way to Sanctuary Hills, where I spend about half an hour troubleshooting the mod, only to find out that I need to download another file from the mod in order to enable movement as the Mr. Handy. With that out of the way, here I stand as a pristine example of the pride of General Atomics. I then proceed to speak with my brother Codsworth and search the neighborhood with him before heading over to Concord and the Museum of Freedom, where I use my buzzsaw and flamethrower to turn these delinquent gunslinging raiders into little more than a stain to be mopped up by one of my peers in the future. After killing all of the raiders inside and out, I speak with Preston, who asks me to get a set of power armor off the roof, but I ignore that and head outside to fight the raiders and Deathclaw on my own. The raiders fall quickly to my flamethrower without any effort, but the Deathclaw takes a long time and a lot of running and gunning? Flaming? I mean, I guess it's a flamethrower. Can you gun with a flamethrower? I don't know, tell me down in the comments. Anyways, I ran away and doused it in fire for a long time until it died. I then returned to Preston in the Museum of Freedom, where he asks me to meet up with him and his group in Sanctuary later, before heading south where I try to mug a junk saleswoman named Trashcan Carla, only to fail the charisma check, which was quite funny to me. I then kill Wolfgang and Simone at Trudy's diner before getting my reward from Trudy herself, and continue on my way until I reach this house house with a Yao Guai inside, which I quickly barbecue for the experience. So far, the flamer has proven quite effective, but I'm worried my damage is not going to be enough in the later game. Anyways, moving on, I head east until I encounter a rad scorpion, which takes quite a while to die, yet again reinforcing my idea that this damage is not going to last in the late game. Moving on, I approach this beautiful tower in the shape of a brilliant Mr. Handy, and as I approach the beautiful tower, I trigger a landmine, causing a car to explode, before meeting another Mr. Handy, who tells me to report to the director of the Galleria. I learn that this place is called the General Atomics Galleria, and that it was supposed to be having a grand reopening on the day the bombs fell, but the supervisor never showed up, mainly due to dying to a nuke. I convince the director, who is a Mr. Gutsy, that I am the supervisor, and commence the grand reopening of the General Atomics Galleria, and explore around talking with a bunch of my kin and exploring this quaint little village that I really enjoy. Nothing really happens, so I go on my way, happy that I visited a tribe of my people, before starting my journey to Boston, and oh, there's a sentry bot here. Well, let's see how this go. I'm dead. Well, that does not bode well. Anyways, I managed to make my way over to Good Neighbor, where I burn and cut through a thug who was trying to export me. Yeah, this thug was trying to export me. He was trying to send me off to a foreign country. No, he was trying to extort me, so I murder him and speak with Hancock, who is really happy that I'm just a psychopath murdering people who I see. After that, I make my way to the Third Rail Bar, where I spend a long time speaking with Charlie the bartender until he gets cross with me, and I figure that's a good time to go. After that, I leave the good neighborhood and kill some super mutants and ghouls, which really weren't that big of an issue, before making my way into Park Street Station, where I start a handy rampage against the Triggermen. The combat is actually really engaging and fun. I switch between the Flamer and the Buzzsaw, and luckily I'm relatively tanky, so I can charge down these thugs and kill them with my short-range weaponry. It's really a fun time, but my lack of range is becoming very apparent, as I have to eat a lot of damage before I can deal any. Either way, I clear the station and the Vault of Triggermen while freeing Nick Valentine, and together we go to leave the vault when we are ambushed by the leader of the Triggermen, Skinny Malone. I pass a speech check to convince him to let us go, and on the way out of the station, I turn Darla into a well-done dame before speaking with Nick above ground. He tells me to meet up with him at his office before I head off to Spanktuary. Oh yeah, I headed off to Spanktuary, you know, good old spanking area. Oh man, I just cannot speak today. Anyways, I head over to Sanctuary and speak with Preston, completing the When Freedom Calls quest, hoping it would give me enough experience to reach level 10. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so I decide to head over to the Cambridge police station and kill some ghouls alongside Paladin Dance and Scribe Halen, and after giving these radiation zombies a good broiling, I speak with Dance and agree to help him go get some gizmo from ArcJet Systems. This mission, as always, was very easy. I helped Dance fight through a ton of synths before burning him with a rocket engine, and after that, I grab the deep-range transmitter and give it to him, completing the quest before heading over to Diamond City, where I meet up again with Nick in his office. After a long interview, it's decided that I need to go check out the house of a merc who used to live in Diamond City named Kellogg. I head up to the mayor's office and convince him to give me the key before entering Kellogg's house and finding his secret room filled with cigars, booze, and healing supplies. I then head outside and give one of the cigars to Dogmeat before leaving Diamond City and making my way over to Fort Hagen. I quickly hover up onto the roof and burn the turrets to a crisp before entering the dungeon proper. I activate this Protectron to try and help me clear out some of the synths on the main level before heading upstairs and trying to clear out all of the upper level on my own. The combat here is very intense and I nearly die, but I managed to clear out the upper level before heading down and continuing on my rampage through the synths. I eventually reached the synth leader and managed to kill him, but I took a bunch of damage and oh no, am I gonna self-destruct? Yep, there it is, kaboom. Well, I guess that's just a death sentence. If they cripple some part of my body, I die. Well, that sucks. Anyways, I take on the dungeon for a second time, and this time it goes relatively smoothly as I chop and burn my way through every last synth until eventually coming face to face with Kellogg. He meets an unfortunate end at the hand of my flamer, and I scoop out a bit of his brains before reading his diary and heading up to the roof to watch the Brotherhood's extravagant entry into the Commonwealth Wasteland. After admiring the Pridwin then for a moment, I book it over to Cambridge Police Station to meet up with Dance and his team. I then get told to go clear out some ghouls from a nearby subway station, and this goes very easily. I run over and kill all of the ghouls in this metro station without even breaking a sweat. It really is easy to deal with melee enemies in particular because my short range is still longer than melee range. Anyways, I return to the police station and ride a vertibird with Dance all the way to the Pridwin... What the hell is this? The pilot must be drunk or something because he defied all physics and I don't know how to get out of this situation. I guess I'll just try exiting the vertibird and I'm dead. Well, this is unfortunate. I'm sure this has something to do with the robot mod, but I try again and the same exact thing happens, but I get lucky and manage to land in some water instead of on a plane wing, so I don't die. From there, I make my way up to the Pridwin and speak with Lancer Captain Kells, who tells me to go listen to Elder Maxon give a speech. So I do just that, heading over to the Elder while he is talking to like 6 Brotherhood members, praising them and declaring the Institute as their enemy. He then promotes me to the rank of Knight and tells me to go meet with the crew of the Pridwin. I quickly run around and speak with Quinlan, Cade, Ingram, and Tegan before heading out to the flight deck to speak with Maxon once more. He then tells me to go kill a bunch of mutants at Fort Strong and secure the cache of mini nukes there. I figure, how bad can it be, and head over to start fighting through the mutants, and oh boy, it was a slog. The normal super mutants and their variants aren't that bad, but the behemoth and the legendary super mutants are incredibly tanky and deal a ton of damage to me. I die over and over and over, but eventually I manage to clear out the outside by using mostly my flamethrower and a little bit of the buzzsaw. I then make my way inside Fort Strong, and this goes much better. The main floor is filled with various super mutants, including a legendary. I try out the bold strategy of just ignoring the legendary and killing all of the other super mutants in the building, and that works out really well. Once I've dealt with all of the other green uglies, I make my way back to the legendary, and he's relatively easy to kill one-on-one as I can stun lock him and use my flamethrower. After dealing with all of the super mutants on the main level, I make my way down into the armory where all of the mini nukes are cached, and I only end up dying once to this super mutant with a missile launcher before going in on my second attempt where I use my trusty flamer to burn all these mutants to a crisp and complete the dungeon. I then return to the Pridwin where Elder Maxon praises me and gives me an upgrade to my arsenal. His scribes managed to upgrade me from a Mr. Handy to a top-of-the-line Mr. Gutsy, featuring a saw blade, laser, and combat rifle on each of my arms respectively. With this new arsenal at my disposal, I head off to Diamond City and along the way fight with some super mutants when my audio glitches out and ends up playing the laser rifle sound on repeat, which is really annoying. I suffer through this annoyance as I talk with Nick and Piper in his office before deciding to exit the game and restart, which thankfully fixes the audio bug. After my chat with Nick and Piper, I head over to the memory den and skip through all of Kellogg's memories while sitting through the last one, and this ends up with a funny moment where I pop into existence as the Courser and Sean teleport out, which, now that I say it, isn't that funny, but it made me giggle when it happened, so I guess I'm easily entertained. Either way, I leave the memory den and make my way over to the glowing sea, where I take a route that avoids all enemies and only end up fighting the final Deathclaw outside of Virgil's cave. The fight is slow and boring as I stand on this hill that the Deathclaw can't manage to get up, and I just end up waiting a lot for him to return to his sleeping spot, but eventually he dies and I enter the cave to speak with Virgil, who needs me to go kill a Courser. With a new task in hand, I head over to Green Tech Genetics and start slicing and shooting my way through the gunners inside. The combat goes really well through the first few rooms as I use my saw blade, laser, and rifle to chew through a bunch of gunners until I reach this gunner with a 10mm auto pistol who does just enough damage to cause me to self-destruct before I kill him. That was annoying, but I go again and make my way to a bridge with a missile launcher wielding douche canoe above me. Unfortunately, I get hit by a cryomine followed by a missile, and it completely destroys me. On my next attempt, I flawlessly make my way through all the gunners as if they were little more than speed bumps on my path to the courser, and upon reaching the main elevator I ride it up and confront the courser quickly by using VATS and get a bunch of damage on him before stun locking him with my saw blade until he dies. I then take the chip from the courser's head and slaughter everyone in the room he was in before heading over to the Old North Church, where I go on a ghoul killing spree. The ghouls pose little to no threat to me as I quickly reach the decoder ring and type in railroad with it, opening a hidden door that leads to a dark room where I meet with the railroad. I manage to convince them to decode the courser chip for me, which takes a long time and a lot of talking, but after getting that done, I head back to Virgil in the glowing sea, who gives me plans for the signal interceptor. I take the plans over to Elder Maxon, who is happy I've decided to work with the Brotherhood, and he sends me to Proctor Ingram, who tells me to go build the signal interceptor. I end up having to buy some materials, but in no time I build the entire contraption and speak with Elder Maxon, who gives me a mission to find some scientists inside the Institute. I tell him I'll do it before speaking with Proctor Ingram and getting teleported into the Institute. I then use the network scanner on a computer before listening to Father speak for a really long time as I ride an elevator. I meet up with Fake Sean and then use VATS to immediately kill Father before fighting my way out of the Institute. The synths here worry me a little bit as they are much more sturdy than I expected, taking far more attacks than most of the enemies I've encountered throughout this run. Nevertheless, I make my way out of the Institute and back to Maxon, who is pissed at me for not recruiting Dr. Lee, but surprisingly, he respects me for standing by my choices. He then sends me to Ingram, who opens this big door to reveal a disassembled massive robot named Liberty Prime. She then sends me off to find a woman named Professor Scara in Diamond City. So I head over to the big city and make my way to her place, only to find this woman talking about biology who tells me that Scara is at the General Atomics Galleria. I make a trip back to see all of my kin and find this professor. I make my way to the maintenance area of the bowling area, only to find out that she's studying the Mr. Handy robots here, and after a really long conversation, I manage to convince her to drop her study and come help me with Liberty Prime. I then return to the Boston airport to find her and Ingram bickering. This is very similar to the Dr. Lee interaction you get, and I was kind of hoping Scara would be different, but I guess not. Anyways, I quickly build some magnets for Liberty Prime's limbs before returning to the two, who continue to banter before sending me off to find nukes for Liberty Prime's backpack. They believe that there should be a huge stash of the nukes that we need in the glowing sea, so I head out to the edge of the glowing sea and speak with Halen, who gives me a beacon to place when I find the nukes. I then make my way to the Sentinel site without anything of note happening, and once inside I start slaughtering a ton of ghouls. It's honestly more fun than difficult, as the ghouls aren't able to significantly damage me, and I also kind of outrange them at this point, so I just have a fun romp using almost exclusively the buzzsaw to rip and tear through them with little to no struggle. I then convince Brother Henry to give me the nukes before watching Adam's Wrath kill this glowing one ghoul for me before riding this elevator up to the surface, and something's missing. What is it? Oh, that's right. Are you subscribed? Could you double check for me, go down, make sure that that button that says subscribe is gray instead of red? If it's red, you should click it. In all honesty, I've been working really hard to update my workflow this month, so there should be 2 videos a month from here on out, barring any extraneous circumstances, and I'd really hate for you to miss one. Also, I just wanted to take a moment to update you all. I know that I was streaming a Cyberpunk run over on Twitch. Well, unfortunately, I had a drive failure and lost all of the footage for it right after I completed the run, so I plan to be redoing that run, but it's going to take a while, so that's probably going to come out sometime in like November or December. Other than that, the next challenge run is going to be in Fallout London because I really want to play it, and I wasn't able to because I still had the robot mod installed and I wanted to clear out the main robots I wanted to do, and this should be the last robot run for a little while. Anyways, that's enough updates. I don't want to waste any more of your time, so where were we? Alright, I returned to Scara and Ingram, and they praise me before giving me the honor of turning on Liberty Prime for the first time since he got destroyed, and oh, Scara says that I deserve to hit the button? I guess she is better than Dr. Lee, who thinks you need to be a qualified technician to hit a big red button, which is completely asinine. Anyways, Liberty Prime comes to life, and then I get told to report to Elder Maxon. I enter his little flight deck, and he accuses me of knowing that Dance was a synth and not reporting it to the Brotherhood. I convince him otherwise because it's freaking obvious. I've already shown my loyalty to the Brotherhood why would I go keeping that kind of secret? Anyways, he tells me I need to go kill Dance, so I speak with Quinlan about a way to track Dance down when Scribe Halen barges in and yells at me. She then tells me to follow her, which I do, and after a bunch of walking, she reveals that Dance is hiding at a nearby bunker. So I head over to the recon bunker and die. Twice. Huh. These turrets and protectrons really don't mess around, do they? Either way, on my third attempt, I get past all of these defenses, and after a long talk with Dance, it's decided that he must die. So I end him before returning to the Pridwin, where Maxon promotes me to Paladin and sends me off to speak with Captain Kells, who casually asks me to go kill the railroad, so without a further ado, I head off to the Old North Church and get stuck in fighting the Freedom Fighters. I waste no time and get to dispatching the leadership of their little band by starting with Dr. Carrington in the lobby. He goes down really easily, and I ignore all of the railroad agents in the lobby, leaving them to the other Brotherhood members, as I make my way into the catacombs, and I feel it's going really well until I once again start self-destructing after taking too much damage, but I make sure to go down swinging and kill all of the railroad agents with my death. I try again, and this time I get all the way through the catacombs and reach the railroad HQ before loading up on all of the chems and quickly dispatching Glory before she can do anything to me. I then fight my way through the rest of the leaders of the Brotherhood and send Pam back to the Pridwin before following suit myself. Unfortunately, upon reaching the Pridwin, I realize I've taken permanent damage during the fight with the railroad and no longer have access to my combat rifle and even lost one of my precious eyes. Despite this setback, I must continue on, so I go and speak with Kells, who sends me to speak with Ingram, who tells me we're going to mass fusion to get the final component to get Liberty Prime operational again. I jump onto the vertibird and ride over with the Proctor to mass fusion, only to be met with a massive horde of synths. The combat starts off very dicey as I'm dropped onto the roof surrounded by synths, but by using a bunch of chems, I'm able to stay alive and take down all of the synths, which are putting up quite the resistance to me. I really do struggle here with fighting through all of the synths on the roof before riding this elevator down to the ground floor with little to no issue. I then kill a couple more synths and enter the reactor room, where I grab a doodad from the reactor core and watch Ingram kill a sentry bot before helping her kill some assaultrons, a protectron, and some turrets before exiting mass fusion and returning to the Boston airport to begin the Brotherhood siege on the Institute. But sadly, I sustained yet more damage in the fight at mass fusion, and I am now down to only one eye, one arm, and I'm even missing some armor. My only remaining weapon is my trusty buzzsaw, so with that, I head over and boot up Liberty Prime and start walking towards the CIT ruins with him. He demolishes a ton of synths in our way before getting a little bit nervous about stepping into the river, but eventually he builds up his confidence enough and plunges into the water. Once across the river, I nearly die when this Brotherhood soldier decides to use a missile launcher at point blank against a synth, but other than that, it's smooth sailing until Liberty Prime throws a nuke at me. Wait, what? Okay, well screw you too, you big robot bastard. I'll go to the CIT ruins without you. I swim over to the CIT ruins while avoiding missile launcher shots from super mutants, but eventually I make my way to the CIT ruins unscathed, and after spending a while watching Liberty Prime scan the CIT ruins, he finds a way to get us into the Institute by using his giant face laser and a nuke to make a way in. I then start my escapade through the Institute, and as always, it starts in the old robotics section where I mostly just let Maxon and the Brotherhood Knights do most of the fighting. Don't get me wrong though, I do get my buzzsaw bloodied a couple of times, but I quickly realize that it just doesn't have the damage I need to kill these synths before they kill me, and I'm super nervous about taking just a little bit too much damage and self-destructing, so I go through all of the Institute walking on eggshells, trying to avoid getting stuck into fights that I can't run away from. That being said, if I ever had an opportunity to fight a synth one-on-one, I usually took it, and after a lot of bloodshed, particularly of Institute scientists, I make my way into the reactor room, where I decide to just let Maxon deal with all the enemies. This takes quite a while, but I just really didn't want to tango with a legendary synth that always has a missile launcher in this room, so after all of the synths and scientists and turrets are dead, I make my way into the reactor core and plant the fusion charge before getting teleported out of the Institute, where I press a big red button, causing a beautiful explosion and answering the question, can I beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty as a Mr. Handy? Yes, I can. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a challenge suggestion down below. I'd like to thank my channel members and patrons, as their support has been tremendous. If you liked this run, you'll probably like my challenge run, where I try and beat Fallout 4 as a sentry bot. You all are beautiful, and this is Willow, signing off.